Back to the bucket of think tanks. So, what a unique point in our Doctor Who retrospective. We finished Classic Who. We just have. It just sort of happened. Like we hit the TV movie, and there we are. And so, of course, with that in mind, I decided let's do a ranking video. Let's rank the classic era Doctors, which means by default we'll be ranking the new Doctors. And then at some point, when I've had enough time and maybe enough cocaine, I will be able to go through all of them and do a definitive ranking that way. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. So let's just sort of get into this. So our first one, William Hartnell. What is William Hartnell as the Doctor? Well, he's not an S rank. He's not. But as I said before, he's like the grouchiest, most cantankerous of the incarnations, and that's because in a lot of ways he wasn't set up to be the Doctor as we know him. The first Doctor was sort of one of a group of characters going in, traveling through all of time and space, trying to get these two knuckleheads home. It's kind of it. It's like Gilligan's Island on a different perspective. Gilligan also went into space one time, so yeah. But to me, he's not an S-rank Doctor. It's very easy to put the first of anything in S-rank, but to me, the first Doctor doesn't really become like the Doctor to me until, like, say, the Dalek invasion of Earth, when he comes face to face with the Daleks. He's like, we're gonna fight these guys. We're gonna fight these guys. Like, they think they know something, they don't know anything. And his interactions with Susan at the end of it. But of also things like the Aztecs, when he's talking to Barbara about, hey, you can't change time. Like, look, I get it. I understand, but you can't change this. This is too important right now. You can't just change it because you think it will be better. All right? Time doesn't work that way. So I'm going to put him as an A because he sets the groundwork in a lot of ways, but doesn't really push the character in a way that we quite know it. Then we come to Troughton. Now, Troughton, my boy Troughton, is an S. He is an S, all right? What stories we do have of his still, because, they burned it, are really great. One thing I like about Troughton is he's kind of the most important Doctor because he has to sell the idea of regeneration. Name any other franchise where you could change the character, and by change the character I mean you have a new actor come in, and then totally bring their own spin on the character, and then the trick is everyone has to act like nothing has changed. The only people who do get to act like something has changed are the quote-unquote normies in the episode, like the Brigadier. Like, when I last saw this guy, he had a mop-top haircut and dressed like a vagabond. Who's this silver-haired tall gentleman? But anyway, with things like the Second Doctor, we see a more proactive character. Like, when he sees something, he automatically gets involved. Like, what's going on here? Like, no, let's see what's going on here. And something like, say, the Invasion, with the Cybermen, I thought was a great story. The Mind Robber, to me, is an amazing experimental story that Doctor Who has never really done since at all. Even when the audio's trying to do it, it's not the same. It just isn't. And what I like about Troughton is he sells the idea that the Doctor can be unassumingly dangerous. Like, you walk right past people like Troughton, like, he's just a bumbling fool, leave him alone. What do you mean he's blown everything up? No, him and the Scotsman, the man in the skirt? No, but it's fun, and something really experimental like War Games is something you never see. And like, it's a huge season-long story that ultimately ends with the Doctor saying, I can't fix this. I have to call the Time Lords. You don't see that anywhere else. Anywhere else in Doctor Who do they go, well, yeah, I'm kind of done. I've exhausted my bag of tricks. Time to outsource it to somebody else. Then we come to the Pertwee era. So the Pertwee era to me is the beginning of not a decline. Far from it. But he's the first Doctor, to me in this run, that goes, I like him more than I like the stories. And it's interesting because I think that sort of is how Doctor Who works. Actually, how certain other things work, certain big franchises. Like, you can say, I like the Doctor, not so much the story. I like the story, not so much the Doctor. I like both. Yay, that's the goal. I don't like either. That's the nightmare. I think we've all had that sort of, like, I'm not really liking this Doctor or this era. And you don't want to use the word hate because that's a bit strong, a bit possibly unnecessary. But it doesn't gel with you. Like, I don't dislike Pertwee stories, far from it. Stuff like the Axons, the Peladon, the Monster of Peladon, the Time Warrior, the Master and the Doctor having a sword fight. This is all really great stuff. Also, Pertwee's Doctor brings in the sort of different relationship with the humans. Because in a lot of ways, up until now, the Doctor gets to decide who he hangs out with. He's like, you know what? I'm taking the Scotsman. You know what? I'm taking the Victorian lady. Now he's stuck on Earth. He's just stuck with these people. You know, I like the idea of the Brigadier, but now, I don't know. By the end of it, he loves the Brigadier. Him and Joe Grant, like, Joe Grant was the Doctor's first sort of apprentice. Like, he's just sort of traveling with Susan, he's hanging out with Jamie as his BFF, but, you know, he sort of takes Joe under his wing and helps Joe sort of see a bigger, wider world, and she's a better person because of it. That's great. Also, Pertwee's Doctor excels at being the most interesting man in the room, which I think later becomes a thing. Like, the Doctor should never play second fiddle to someone else in the room unless that's the point of the story. He should always be surprisingly interesting in ways you didn't think about. Looking at Hartland Troughton, you didn't think Third Doctor would be like, no, I drive fancy cars and space mobiles. I speak a multitude of different languages. I know how to hypnotize. I can levitate. I can sword fight. No. I am the most interesting incarnation in the timeline. You know, that's it. Then we come to Tom Baker. And Tom Baker he's an S. This, because of the impact he's had on the show. Like, he sort of takes everything Pertwee, Troughton, and Hartnell did and turned it up to 11. His design is surprisingly interesting, like the scarf. His character is bombastic and a bit frightening and insane in some ways, and he has a certain sense of grandeur that he brings to the show. Like, listen to the little speech in Ark in Space, which talks about Homo sapiens and how they've endured so much. But then we also go to Gallifrey. We see the creation of the Daleks. We see something like, I love Robot. Robot might be my favorite post-regeneration story of the classic era. It might be, I'm not sure. But also the companions he introduces, not just Sarah Jane, who he basically picks up from the Pertwee era, but also Leela, Romana, Adric, Nissen, Tegan, you know, sort of the mixed bag of strays he picks up by the end of it. But there's he sort of gets into a sort of bit of everything. And what's cool about that is he's able to catapult Doctor Who to a level of height that, for better or worse, has never really been reached before until, like, the Tennant era. And the reason I say it's sort of a bad thing is when you get to someone like Peter Davison and J&T. So one thing I like Peter Davison. I like the Fifth Doctor, not so much in his era. I like his stuff in expanded works. But because his character is always sort of there, is what he excels at, it sort of allows the other stories to work. Something like Castrovalva, I think, benefits from a sort of Doctor who wants to sort of like take a back seat to what's going on. Earthshock isn't really his story, but it's sort of like the Adric Swan song. Arc of Infinity, I always felt was a fun story. Resurrection of the Daleks, I believe it was called, when he meets Davros again, has to deal with that issue. Kinda and Snake Dance are highly experimental stories that I don't think would have quite worked in any other era. And what's interesting is the Fifth Doctor is sort of very quiet and subdued for the most part. And the reason that matters is because, well, we get to like his polar opposite, the Sixth Doctor. And I'll say it, Colin is, for his television era, he is sadly a D. Alright, Twin Dilemma, I'm not sure what it benefited from the least. The fact that it was the last episode of that season, so there was nothing but a gap in between. The episode of him strangling the life out of Perry, or the fact that you know, it's the Twin Dilemma. Like, could it have mattered had it just been the beginning of the first season? I don't know. Well, then again, it would be like a whole. Like, could you imagine that trailer today for the Sixth Doctor's there, and they show like, why is he strangling his companion? What did Perry do this time? Then you go, Perry's only crime was walking into the room. No. But there is something to be said about Colin's era, on television at least. There's some good stuff to it. Like, personally, I think Trial of a Time Lord is a really great experimental idea. Once again, a season-long sort of finale is a great idea. And sort of showing like, hey, what happened to this Doctor? He seems kind of more mellow, yet at the same time more over the top and loud and proud, and more principled than I think that the character's always been trying to be. It plays off differently here in some way, and I'm not quite sure if that was intended or not, but sadly the results were in, it couldn't work. The Twin Dilemma is important to watch in some ways, because I don't think you quite get it. Like, I could tell you it, but you won't get it. It's one of two episodes I think is really talked about the most in Doctor Who, whether for good or bad. Genesis of the Daleks for Classic Who is talked about the most, where it sort of dilutes the story, because everyone keeps telling you how great it is, and you go like, it's alright. Like, if you watch it knowing nothing going in, like, this is really cool. This is really cool. That's the thing. I'm speaking for me here. Genesis was kind of overrated when I finally saw it after hearing how great it was. I'm like, you guys, yeah, it was all right. It's like The Killing Joke. Like, The Killing Joke's a great story, but when people overhype it, it's like, all right. But Attack of the Cybermen is a fun idea. Introduces the Web of Time, but because he's just so abrasive and loud, and Perry always feels she's like once away from having a mental breakdown. Whatever really good really comes from Colin's performance, where he is trying his best to make this character work, it just doesn't work. And then we come to Sylvester McCoy, the Seventh Doctor, and I personally, what I feel about him is irrelevant. I'm going to put him as a C. So what I like about Sylvester, in at least his television era, is that he brings a certain air of mystery back to Doctor Who, and consider the fact that from the end of the Fourth Doctor's era to 5, to 6, to 7 was pretty much J&T, I sort of get the idea he's trying to tell one big story that kind of falls apart, primarily because he clearly wanted to leave by a certain point and they wouldn't let him. But Sylvester ranks a bit higher than Colin because, well, he doesn't strangle any of his companions, and he's also bringing back the sort of mystery to the Doctor. You never quite know what 7 is planning. And when you get something like Dragonfire, where it's greatly implied that, yeah, he knew Ace would be there. He sort of also did something to Mel to make her leave. Sort of like Remembrance of the Daleks, Ghost Lights, Curse of Fenric. This Doctor is planning a bunch of stuff. And so like Silver Nemesis, the mystery sort of returned to Doctor Who in a way that doesn't really quite pan out. Ultimately, at least in this context, because the Cartmel Master Plan never played out, and I think that was to its credit. The best thing about the Cartmel Master Plan for me is that it never got a definitive answer. Don't answer it. If you answer it, you fail to bring mystery back to the character. You teased mystery, and then went, oh, and here it is. You're supposed to do this. Like, guess what? Nothing at all. Nothing. Everything you just saw was an illusion. You Men in Black this. All right, and finally we have Paul McGann, the Eighth Doctor, and you know what? I'll say it. He's a D. Colin and Paul are similar in that they're really betrayed or let down by the story they're in. Now, the TV movie Doctor Who is not terrible. It isn't, but it just isn't good. And Paul is really universally the best thing about it. That's why he was able to. I think that's why he's been so embraced by the fan base. Like, no, he counts. He counts. Look, Sylvester came in as the Seventh Doctor, left his TARDIS, got boomed, and then went to a human doctor who didn't listen to the patient, and then died, and then turned into Paul McGann in a weird way. And Paul McGann sold the sort of mystery and romance of time travel again in some ways. So that's my tier ranking for this. At least going by just the TV era and my thoughts on it. This is another picture of Colin. I had to find another one because I couldn't find one of his head. Now, if we were to go my own personal ranking of classic era Doctors, I think this mostly stays the same. Move Colin up to... Yeah, Colin, once you go to his to Big Finish, he's definitely up there in my mind. Sylvester, I love Sylvester. He's my favorite incarnation of the classic era for me because he sort of echoes ideas of Troughton. If there was he's at the high end of A tier. He really is. Troughton, actually, you know what? Troughton kind of has to... Troughton's fine where he is, actually. Hartnell really gets catapulted. He stays in A. David Bradley's plays, which is the only first artist to listen to, I think really do him a great service. Even though, if you listen to how David Bradley talks as the Doctor, he tends to talk a bit like this as he goes on, and for some people that might not work, my dear. But for me, I think it does a great job. Hope I did that right. It really sucked if I tried to imitate David Bradley and failed at David Bradley. I think I failed at David Bradley. I'm sorry, David Bradley. For the record, I do love your portrayal of the First Doctor. Those audios are great. I wish you were still doing more. I don't know what's going on down there, or whatever. The Barbarian and the Samurai is a great story. I'm going to move Davison up to 5. Stories like Spare Parts and You Will Obey Me. The Council, hang on, that's gonna irritate me. I think is really great. But, it doesn't catapult him up to that. His Weeping Angel story in the classic Doctor New Monsters is really great, but I think it's overshadowed by Jadun in Chains. You have not had a really great classic Doctor's New Monster story. Get on it, Big Finish. And Paul, like Colin, gets catapulted up. And honestly, off the Time War stories, the Charlie era, and half of Dark Eyes, I think he goes up to a high A in my mind. I think it's just because, again, he gets to have the stories he never got to have. I think, especially if you go for like the Charlie era, you get like a sort of 9-10 hybrid in some ways. There's a certain confidence, a certain jovialness to him, but also a certain sadness to him. There's a great sense of loss and grief that surrounds the Eighth Doctor. In Trial of the Valiant, which is the Sixth Doctor story, which is really great, one thing you'll notice, the Valiant says, I can tell you about your next incarnations. He talks about the Seventh Doctor and all his schemes, and the Eighth Doctor and the shadow of death he never escapes. That is the Eighth Doctor. Memento Mori is sort of, I think, what Sam's about. Pertwee is still at a B. I'm sorry. Pertwee and I, like, his expanded stuff hasn't gelled with me, but I think that's also because a lot of it is him narrating the story, which I can't with an audio. I can't. I don't have to listen to you read me a story. I'm grown. I can read books. I've read the Day of the Doctor novel. It's really good. It's really good. So that is my definitive rankings attempt to be a bit unbiased with it, and then my own personal ranking. Actually, hang on, stop. I'm going to move Troughton down to A for my personal ranking, and I'm going to move... Actually, you know what? That's terrible. That's terrible. You know what? Let's just... let's be honest. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be 100% honest. This is my personal ranking of it. These 6 men are my all-time favorites, and Hartnell and Pertwee are just really great. They're just not at S. I haven't found a story that just goes with me with those. With these guys here, with hang on, that ear. This is angering up my blood. Angering up my blood. There we go. With Troughton, Baker, Davison, Baker, McCoy and McGann. To me, they're telling choice Doctor Who stories. Their choice incarnations have great moments. Even when I sort of, dig on the Fifth Doctor for that bland costume, it's lovely counteracted by Colin's over the top. Oh my God, I can hear it from another timeline. It's just great. And even in stories like Live 34 and The Settling are just really great stories that elevate it to me. Hartnell hasn't quite had enough of them yet for me. Same with Pertwee. I appreciate each and every one of these characters, but only the bulk of them. I'm like trying to sound like I only like a few of them. No, legitimately, what is this? 1, 2, 3/4 of them are my favorites. Oh my God. You know what? I think I've lost some credibility. Anyway, with that in mind, if you're new to the Bucket Think Tank, feel like, comment, share, subscribe, check out some of my videos, and I'll catch you all later. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching, and as always, may your fandom serve you well.